In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my personal story going through life believing this toxic idea that I'm not enough as a person. Before I jump right into the story, I want to explain why I want to share it in the first place. It's not because I think it's such an epic and sensational, unique sob story. It's not to show off that I'm such an overcomer of tough conditions. And it's not to feed off of your sympathy. I share because I want to show how common it is for all kinds of people to be affected by this toxic idea. Even someone like me who grew up in comparatively privileged conditions. And then, after my wife and I share our own personal stories, we'll continue on a video series about identity and worth. Okay, so when I was a kid, I was super sensitive to my parents' approval and disapproval. When I saw that something that I did made them happy, it made me feel good about myself. And when I saw that something that I did made them upset, it made me feel terrible about myself. So I learned to do more of the things that make them happy and avoid all the things that make them upset. And because I tried so hard to control this, on the surface, I appeared to be a pretty well-behaved child. But of course, I wasn't the perfect child. And one of the ways that my mom would often discipline me was to withdraw her love and acceptance. Still to this day, I'm not exactly sure what I did back then as a child, but I remember one time on a cold winter night while it was heavily snowing outside and there was like a thick layer of snow on our deck, my mom locked me out while I was barefooted and just wearing my thin pajamas. More than the pain of the cold snow to my bare feet, I was incredibly pained by her blank expression that I could see through the window. Even though I was repetitively banging on the door, begging her in my screams and tears to let me back into the house, I was really begging her to let me back into her heart. But that didn't happen. Eventually, my mom let me back into the house and prepared a hot bath for me to warm up. And while I was taking that bath, to fill in the silence, I remember my mom testing me on the multiplication table. That whole experience was traumatic for me as a child, and it made me fear losing my parents' love and acceptance, which I painfully learned are conditional to my performance. Growing up, my mom constantly talked about the achievements of other kids, about how my cousins achieved this or that, or so-and-so's child achieved this or that. And everything she'd highlight were things that I had not achieved myself. So I'd feel super insecure and think, I guess that's what I gotta do for you to be happy with me? But I did do very well in school and felt secure about being the top student. But that also came with a lot of high expectations from others, too much for my comfort. You see, a lot of people, especially a lot of the parents, were wondering where I'd go next for high school. I felt so much pressure to make it into these special schools that all the parents were hyping up. I was so afraid of getting rejected and appearing like a fraud to everyone. Like all this time, I was just fooling everyone to believe that there was more to me. Well, in the end, I did get rejected from those super hyped up schools. And with that rejection, I lost all sense of who I am and what I even bring to the table. I felt so insignificant. And then, I guess to soften the pain of the rejection, my parents suggested that publicly, we all as a family just go along with the rosy story that I did get accepted, but that I chose instead to go to a Catholic private school for religious reasons. I'm sure it wasn't my parents' intention, but covering up like that taught me that my weaknesses and my imperfections are best kept hidden from others. During high school, I met a girl. Being as young and immature as I was, I foolishly shared way too much with her without any restraint. I didn't realize how much that kind of transparency with someone would cause me to long for their acceptance and commitment. But that's not what happened. She instead found every way to put me down and convince me that I'm not enough. And one of the ways she did that a lot was through religion. Despite having told people that I chose my high school for religious reasons, I never actually took religion all that seriously until I met this girl. But because I had this pre-existing belief that I'm not enough and that I had to do more to be enough, I interpreted Christianity in this completely wrong, backwards way. I misunderstood the core message of Christianity to be all about you're not enough, so you gotta do this, this, and that in order to be enough. So that then became the new oppressive system that I obsessively and compulsively served. Every day, I'd go through my checklist of things that I had to do and things that I had to avoid. And no different from my early years in grade school, I'd feel enough as a person if I got an A, and I'd feel terrible about myself if I got a B. There's no letter grades in religion, but you know what I mean. Anyways, shortly before graduating from university, my toxic relationship with that girl came to an end with her cheating on me. Nothing that I had experienced before came even close to making me feel as inadequate as that did. I was in so much pain with how inadequate I felt that I couldn't bother with my religious checklist any longer. And so I put religion, or more like my disappointing version of it, behind me. What I felt a greater urgency to do instead was to find another woman who would give me even the slightest hint of approval and desire. So for that, I started frantically binge dating. Then at the worst time to come out of school, during the 2008 economic recession when the labor market had dried up, I graduated from university. For a whole year, I couldn't get a job. I felt like such a useless loser. I thought maybe I'd have better luck somewhere else. So I moved to Seoul, Korea. But again, for a year, I couldn't land all that much. I was so frustrated with myself. That's when I decided to start doing things on my own through YouTube on top of my day job. For once, things started to look a bit more promising. My channel grew, I appeared on a popular TV show, and I started getting business inquiries. All of that made me feel better about myself. But it wasn't enough. I needed more. And in my pursuit for more, I became a workaholic. I slept an average of 2 hours every night, and I got hospitalized a few times out of exhaustion. My time in Korea finally came to an end when my mental health got so bad that I had to return to Canada to get professional help. Coming back home with nothing but a bunch of mental health issues, I felt like a complete failure. I had so much shame with who I was as a person that I struggled to make eye contact with people. But I mostly kept to myself anyway, just isolated and bedridden. I hated myself so much that I would physically hurt myself. And no matter where I was or what I was doing, non-stop, my mind would come up with ways that I could end my own life. But for the first time in my life, at the age of 26, I stopped doing more in order to be enough. At first, I felt terribly uncomfortable not coping in my usual way when I felt worthless. But it all opened me up to learn and adopt a much healthier concept of what it means to be enough. And that's my personal story of what I went through when I believed I wasn't enough as a person. Can you relate? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to be notified when our future videos on identity and worth come out, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Alright, see you next time. Bye.